Hi, this is Tashina.
Hey, this is Jonathan.
And this is
Abandoned Ship!
a sci-fi podcast where we are taking a 4-year journey into Deep Space Nine.
Is it 4-year or 3-year?
I said 3-year first, but honestly,
It'll probably be 4.
probably be closer to 4.
Let's just round up to 5, then we can be on a 5-year mission. Just like, not this show, but the other show.
I think it matches a certain somebody's term of presidency.
Oh, yes.
Because we did start exactly the first week.
Wow. This is our coping mechanism.
Exactly. This is our distraction. So, today...
That's right, we're talking politics.
Well, it's hard not to in a show like this.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely...
Politics, religion,
in this
diversities.
In this actual episode, they say Bajor for Bajorans, so it's really quite
I
topical.
clocked that too. I'm like, So today...
And this was before all the current climate stuff, where before New Trek was literally throwing in Make the Federation Great Again. Back when references were genuine and...
Oh,
I don't know.
boy.
Now I'm on a tangent.
Yeah. Let's rein it back in.
Rein it back in. All right.
We are doing Season 1, Episode 3, Past Prologue.
Yes.
So we've just come off the pilot, which was solid. I think this is a really important episode, especially for Kira.
Yep.
Very crucial. It's interesting. I was looking at some of the reviews, past, present. Very mixed. Someone gave this episode a 4 out of 10. I was actually very surprised. Like, it definitely has its flaws. But knowing what's coming ahead, I'm like, oh no, strap in. This is the good stuff.
Throughout the show, it's going to be very difficult to actually objectively rate these episodes.
Yes.
And that's why we're not doing ratings, because we just don't like them.
Yeah, personally, I'm not big on rating. I rather someone just explain why they didn't like it or like it.
I especially like when people try and get away from ratings and go, I don't like giving us a 5-point scale. So instead, I came up with 5 words to describe. It's like, but that's a 5-point scale. You're just trying to call it something different. A lot of people try and get away from it. We're just not going to bother. I will rate it from
rating.
pineapple to potato.
So, we start off this episode with an entrance to our favorite problematic character, Garak.
Yes, it goes right into it.
Oh, right into it. For some reason, when we started the episode, we were just 10 seconds in. It must have done it when we were watching the past episode and must have gone over. I thought accidentally got a minute in.
They're
I'm like,
definitely
what?
trying to jam the runtime here.
Apparently, so much happens in this episode. They're like,
No
we don't have
for
time.
establishing
We don't have
shots.
time. Just get right in. To our cafe, I guess.
I think this is the Replement.
Is that what it's called? Is
Yes,
it
because they
eatery?
because they replicate things there, so it's the Replement.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like the cafe.
okay.
Because you have Quarks where
Yes.
they make food allegedly, I guess, and then the Replement, which is it's like this is like the those little. It's like a 7-Eleven, I guess. It's like or like those cafes we have at work where you just go in, it's just a bunch of stocked stuff in shelves and
Just eat
fridges.
hangs, yeah.
Yeah, just generic stuff. So yeah, this is where you go and you replicate things.
But
A little
Bashir,
tidbit there.
Bashir is just hanging out, and Garak beelines right for him,
Oh yes, he knows his mark.
and Bashir is a mark for sure. But he introduces himself very over the top in his praise of Bashir, especially, but just friendliness, I'm Garak, I'm the tailor. As you could see, I am a Cardassian, and I'm pretty much the only one left on the station.
He has a very melodramatic way. Is that the right word? Way of talking, the way he delivers all of his lines. It's a really specific.
Yes, I think melodramatic works. So it's interesting because, as fans do, we tend to, especially for 80s and 90s show, you're like, was this character straight? Okay. There's a lot of question with Garak himself, which I understand, especially for 80s and 90s, because shows couldn't just like have
And I
characters
think
be
that's
out.
why, because you couldn't have anyone just be out. You figure that somewhere there's probably someone
winking
trying
in the
winking, trying to
in
sneak
the
something
scripts,
in.
which is fine. I just don't like it now when it's called baiting now, because like, oh, aren't they? I'm like, but there's no reason for the subterfuge. There's no reason to.
Nowadays
it's just
everyone
gay baiting.
understands. Yeah, exactly. But everyone still wants to hit that high, and
Exactly.
all everyone's looking for, and that's why these mystery box shows are so popular. All everyone's looking for is a discussion and trying to figure out what's behind the curtain. But what if there isn't anything?
Exactly.
Yeah.
80s and 90s, it made sense why this was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And going into this, I'm like, okay, I wanted myself to look at Garak to see, okay, is it just like fans really trying to like put this upon him, like trying to get some representation, or do I feel like the character was written that way? Like somebody in the show was like, wink, wink, no.
And also, those kinds of things can come from the writers, and they can also come from the actors.
Yes.
Like it could be that written, it was not meant to be, but the actor, through artistic license, decided to insert that into their performance too.
So I think wherever it stems from, his character ain't straight. Which it just brings up a lot of questions, especially with his relationship with Bashir. At first, it's just definitely like a contact, a mark. But I don't know how things develop, especially later.
It never hurts to have your mark be someone who's easy on the eyes.
Yeah. I mean, Bashir, as much as sometimes he makes me cringe, he is a good-looking guy.
And definitely, this is like early Bashir too, where he's really like, his performance too is always so
he's a puppy.
Yeah.
Like there's some points in here where I'm like, oh, I can't be mad at him. He has that puppy dog look in his eyes that he's just so excited and naive, and I'm like, I can't be mad at him.
Yeah. And that gets toned down a lot later. It becomes a little more like,
as he gets more experience.
He becomes more seasoned, more suave, and then there's the whole other plot line that changes, I guess, his perspective a bit. But that had not been written at this point.
And in these interactions with Bashir, I mean, you could just tell off the bat why he chose him to be the contact. Now, is it just a contact? Is he going to manipulate Bashir?
Oh, sure, yeah.
It
reminds me it's almost like this a gender swapped James Bond, because James Bond stories, and this is a spy thing going on this episode. Obviously James Bond, he'll have either a contact in his organization or someone from the other side that he like has to manipulate, and it's always the beautiful blonde bombshell, and this is just Garak doing that.
This is his contact, yes,
from his perspective.
But it's so funny. Oh my goodness, and if you're on YouTube, you probably saw this picture where Garak just comes around. He stands up, comes around Bashir, and puts his hands on his shoulder, and the look on Bashir's face is priceless. I love it. And of course, in his excitement, he runs to what do you call the
ops?
Ops, is that what they call like the main section?
Bridge. Yeah.
Oh, the bridge. There you go.
Yeah, but it's ops here because it's not a ship.
It's not a ship, so it's ops. Okay.
Yes.
He goes to ops, and he's like telling Miles and Daxon. There's some mild interest, but nothing like they're not.
He gets kind of blown off.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
And then he's like, almost like, why me? And I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child. But he's like, why would he contact me? And he's just so excited, like, oh, do you need to bug me? Do you need to put a tracker on me? Do you need to do this?
And this especially is great, coming off of one line that Garak says in that opening, where he's asked, Doctor, you're not intimating that I'm some sort of spy, are you? And Bashir goes, I wouldn't know. And Garak goes, an open mind, the essence of intellect. And that's got to have been dripping with sarcasm.
Yes. So we talked before about the Cardassians and their double speak.
Mm-hmm.
Garak has just mastered it.
Garak double speaks so hard it's just speak.
Exactly.
Cancels itself out.
It's a circle to the point where sometimes, like, I don't know. I don't know if he's being.
And that's definitely that's a theme throughout the whole show, all the way to the end. You can suspect, and he becomes a little more open later, but you still never truly know for sure.
Can't really
anything
him
about him.
Can't really nail this guy down, which makes him such a great character.
Mm-hmm.
Love him. So as Bashir is being uber excited about his new spy journey, they are interrupted by a Cardassian ship going after, it looks like a Bajoran runabout.
Yeah,
or like a very small
ship.
Yeah. And they're trying to hail
the
Cardassians. Of course, are like,
Kira gives a very stilted. That damn Cardassians firing on a Bajoran space.
We definitely got a lot of those explainer lines.
Yep.
It's like to the audience. I'm like, okay. They were able to contact the Bajoran. He is asking for asylum. They're able to beam him off before his little ship explodes. Thank God we have Miles, our transport.
Oh, he's the transporter chief,
He's the expert.
You gotta always wonder, though, this ship's being actually fired. It could explode at any second. You always wonder, because he says, get him out of there, O'Brien. Like, in the time that it took to convey all these orders, what if he'd just blown up and be like, oh, sorry, it was too late. End of the episode.
Credits.
It's always very convenient that they wait until after they make their decision, give their orders, that things happen.
That's excitement.
Yes.
Action.
And a clear chain of command, which is very important.
Very important. The Bajoran is Tana Los.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. A underground fighter who was part of the Konma.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. I'm so nervous about saying these correctly. Kira was a part of this.
Kira,
or
I don't think she was a part of it, but she knew him.
She knew him.
Because she was part of the Shakar.
So they must have had some overlap.
Yeah, the Konma. So as with any rebellion, revolution, underground movement, there's a lot of splintered factions, right? And the Konma were some of the worst. They were the most dedicated, the most extreme, the most, they would go after, they talk about this later, they would go after other Bajorans too, who they felt, were collaborators or weren't doing enough. Mm-hmm. Like, it was truly a black and white world for them.
Yes. So he is taken to sickbay, and the Cardassians finally answered the phone, and it's Gul Dunar. Dunar.
Not to be confused with
Damar. I asked you about that. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't there a Damar?
He's a cousin.
So Gul Dunar is like, give him back to us. He's evil.
This actor, by the way, is the perfect, Cardassian actor. The way he delivers all of his lines through gritted teeth.
Yes, I noticed that
too. He's just so perfect. I love listening to his voice. He really captures all of the hostility and arrogance. And this is also what's great, is that the Cardassians are more than just one note. They're at least two notes, right? You have
anger and sarcasm.
Because they have all this double speak.
Yes.
And they're pretty, good negotiators, but they're also very arrogant. They are belligerent. And so in this episode right here, you have two sides of the same coin. You have Garak, who's all the way on one side.
Yeah.
Would smile to you as he stabbed you in the back. And you have this guy who has none of Garak's finesse.
He'll just stab.
Even through, you can still see some of it coming through. Like when he talks later with Sisko.
Yes.
He can sort of, see through some of the things he's saying and is choosing his words carefully, but still in a very angry and belligerent way.
Yeah, he knows how to volley back and forth, but the anger is right there at the surface.
As opposed to something like the Klingons or the Romulans, who are usually a lot more one note.
It's just anger. It's just anger with Klingons, as we see.
Yeah. So it's great because you get to see two sides of the same coin, same species, work very differently, but you can still see the connecting thread between them that makes you believe that this is a culture that's, real, that you can connect with. So I just thought that was great, and I just wanted to praise the performance because
Yes.
I love him. And I think he was in an episode of Voyager.
Of course he was.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those people like, this guy must have been in every single Star Trek. Because they love reusing these kinds of people. But yeah.
Sisko tells him, we need to research. We need to figure this out, see what's going on. You can dock. We'll talk about this on DS9. And he goes huffing and puffing away. Sisko is going to sickbay to question Tana, and Kira goes with them. And this is our first of many of pissy bitch fests between actors. There's a lot of yelling in this episode. And you forgot to mention Kira's new do.
Oh yes,
She went and
have ditched the pretty bad episode 1 haircut.
She's
wig.
in sport mode now. Because the other hairdo, it was fine, but it was very matronly. Like, it had more of that vibe to it. Where this, she looks like she's ready to run like the Flash. Like, her hair's all slicked back. So, a fun look. Kira expresses here that Bajor is her top priority because Sisko's like, you need to figure out these priorities. And she's like, oh, I know my priorities. It's Bajor first, baby. Sisko's rolling his eyes going, oh, dear God. And they enter the sick bay. And I don't know why this cracked me up, but Tana is on the bed and he's shirtless. He has a sheet on him first, but when he starts talking to him and showing off his scars and everything, and he's just like lounging back, I'm like, is this supposed to be sexy? Like, I wasn't sure what the vibe was.
It was definitely.
Moment. I'm like, if so, take it back. Take it back.
On the bed. Yeah, it was. He knew Kira was coming in.
Maybe that was it. I don't know. He was trying all kinds of tactics to lure Kira in. So Sisko starts to question him. And Kira immediately is like, by the way, he hasn't decided if he is going to give you asylum or not. And Sisko's like, Jesus, Kira. He's like, do I need to do this by myself? Get out of here.
As we've learned, chain of command is very important.
Yes. Which, he is her commander.
Yep.
And she does some stuff there like, ooh, that's dancing on fire. So Sisko asks him, like, is he still part of the Konma, essentially? And he asks, why would you continue the violence? And Tana does a lot of ho-hum, oh, I'm not a part of that life anymore. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Kira goes over Sisko's head to the Admiral. And again, she's just like I feel like the first 2/3 of this episode, Kira's just in pure fire mode, yelling at anybody in her path. And she's just yelling at the Admiral. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, basically she's like, I don't think Sisko's doing the right thing here. And, she's trying to pull out all the stops. She's working. I think the presence of Tana Los here has sort of reminded her of who she used to be. And she's still trying to hold on to that and, push the thing from every direction she can. And yeah, throughout it, she really bumps heads with sort of the new way of doing things. And that's sort of, obviously the theme of the whole episode.
Because throughout the episode, we also see Tana, like, needling her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're just a politician now. The fire's got...
uniform.
Yeah, I could see why she also is trying to prove she's still Bajoran first and that she loves Bajor, and this is her top priority. Because it looks like to the extremists that she's just a sellout.
And that's the other thing to remember, too, is because she was not herself Konma, she was in the Shikar. The Konma were, the top, the most extreme of the extreme.
Yes.
And so there's probably a little bit of
pissing contest, yeah.
Hero worship here a little bit. We're like, oh, I got to prove myself to this person because they are so for, they're so for Bajor. I want to be so for Bajor.
And yeah, because one of Kira's big points for giving him asylum is that he is needed to rebuild the new Bajor. Like, we need men like him. I'm like,
yep.
After this episode, I'm like, really? I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess it's like, there's two parts of that. One, you're just trying to present some face of unity, right? Like, okay, we're just going to acknowledge that everyone had to do bad things because we're in a bad situation.
Because Kira did.
Yeah, so now we're just going to cut that off and move forward. And also the idolization, like, oh, this guy was so Bajor first that we need that kind of fervor
Yes.
for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't realize at this point that, yeah, it's a little more gray than that.
So Cisco is coming back to Ops, and Miles speaks to him briefly, like, have you gone to war with the Cardassians? I have. You don't want to give this guy up to them, to their tender, loving care.
Yeah. So this is another example, too, of Cisco taking in all the knowledge that people bring to him and using it to his advantage, because he does basically use this later to finally close things up.
Yep.
And, yeah, the Cardassians, this is his dilemma, right? Because this guy is a terrorist, even by Bajoran definition.
Yes.
Not just, obviously, Cardassians call everyone terrorists, but even by Bajoran definition, he's probably like, a terrorist.
Extreme.
Bad, but also Cardassians, bad.
And we've also witnessed it on his body.
Yeah,
because he had these really bad scars that even Bashir's like, whoa. And he mentions, like, the Cardassians torture you in a way to keep you alive.
Yep.
While inflicting the most pain. And so from that and Miles, it's like, yeah, however you feel about Tana, you really don't want to give someone up to the Cardassians unless you absolutely positively have to. And even in the pilot, because Kira didn't want to surrender because she knew how they punish.
Yep. All right, yeah, so then O'Brien, tells them, okay, the Cardassian ship's docked. We're sort of delaying them with all these procedures, those Starfleet rules.
Also, the Admiral wants to talk to you.
Yeah, the Admiral wants to talk to you. He's like, okay, take it in my office. she Admiral
pretty
pops
much
up.
Bitches the man.
That Bajoran woman you have working for you just interrupted a staff meeting.
She interrupted my staff meeting. No.
Obviously, for Starfleet, big faux pas. Don't interrupt their meetings.
Don't.
Know your place.
Know your place.
So you have a problem there. And he's like, yep, I sure do.
And just like more seriousness is just on Cisco's face as the episode continues. And Kira has a little chat with Tunnelose, kind of go over. I don't think any major details come up here. Just more of the needling. Like, this is where the needling really starts.
And where she's really trying to prove herself. Like, oh, yeah, I don't get along with Cisco. Oil and water. Yeah. You gonna give him over? Is he gonna give me to the Cardassians? Yeah, over my dead body. She's over really going all in.
Body. Yep.
About like us and them.
Yes.
I'm Bajoran. He's Federation. There's a line there.
Yes. Goldenar finally meets Cisco in his office after a lengthy process of clearing his ship. And they have a lot of back and forth here. You probably have the actual dialogue.
Yeah, a lot more great delivery from Goldenar, and yeah, but he's basically give us the Bajoran. This would be a diplomatic insult
because they believe he is planning something.
Yes.
Like, he's not giving up this life. Like, he is still doing bad stuff, and he's going to do more. But Ben is like, I have to grant him asylum. I cannot, in the position I'm in, I cannot give up a Bajoran to the Cardassians. And I'm going to transfer him over to Bajor so you can deal with the provisional government if you want him.
Yeah.
So, like,
ultimately, it all comes down to, it doesn't matter what he's done. He is just not giving him to the Cardassians.
Because I totally understand, like, especially as the Federation, he cannot make that decision. It's going to have to be Bajor, yeah. This is where Kira takes Tanalos to his new quarters, and she shows him the comfy
how long
bed.
Since you've slept in a comfortable bed? And we both said as it panned over, like, I still haven't.
Like, what is he? Been sleeping on a rock bed? Like, what?
That thing is a metal board with some foam tacked onto it.
looks like a prison cell bed.
This is the least comfortable bed I've ever seen in my life.
And I don't know, especially with Cardassians, I would think that they would have the most top-of-line, deluxe, comfy bed. And so I'm surprised. This must be the lowest of the low. Like, this is where we send the people we don't like.
It's because Star Trek, I feel like in general, never has the most comfortable looking beds. They always look pretty, Spartan. But this is definitely takes the cake.
This was
Probably
one
the
of
worst
the worst.
looking bed. Next to only the Klingon bed, or Next Gen, which was literally a metal slab. But the whole point of that was that it was the most uncomfortable bed you've ever seen.
I know, just her pointing the most comfortable bed. I'm like, are you pulling our chain here, Kira?
I guess they're just used to sleeping outside. I think
guess
I'd rather
so.
sleep outside than on that bed.
You know what? You might be able to find some nice comfy grass or leaves or something.
Yep. Cone Ma, he's probably slept in some dead bodies that were more comfortable than that.
Kira and Tana, again, we're doing the fiery yelling. They get heated real quick, pretty much about the current state of Bajor. Like, what is going on right now? Because Tana's like, why should the Federation be here? Because Kira's like, they're helping us. He's like, but they shouldn't be here. Nobody should be here.
Bajor for Bajors.
Bajor. Because Kira's like, but the wormhole is here now. It's important. It makes us a power. And he's like, I don't want us to be a power. I just want everybody to fuck off and leave us alone, is pretty much his stance. No outsiders. And he's very dismissive of the wormhole. He's like, I can't believe it. And he's really getting on her case about being on the Federation side. More back and forth, more back and forth. And then we get the entrance of our Klingon ladies.
Well, first...
Oh, no, what did I miss?
The end of that scene is when he basically is like, okay, I'm done with the Konma, and I know some other people who will follow me if you can guarantee them amnesty. So that's like her mission right now, is to get amnesty for all these Konma people.
Got it. Because, yes, there's a couple more Konma people coming. So, yes, that is now her goal, is to get them all amnesty. Now the ladies show up. Ladies! And the Klingons make their entrance.
Lursa and Bajor, House Duras.
Cool.
Figured I'd get ahead of you on that one.
Thank you. They have their weapons, and of course, Odo's team is like, you need to give them up. And they're like, no.
And then he's like, do it. And then they're all like, okay. That problem gets solved there. Kind of an awkward opening. The other awkward thing is when the first line in this whole scene, so they come in already in progress. They're staying there. A deputy's on the floor looking drunk.
Like
he just
did he
woke
just get
up.
punched?
It looks like he just woke up to me. Looked wasted. And then Odo just goes, what?
Efficiency.
Circling back to that rating of 4 out of 10, this is definitely, you're right that there are definitely worse episodes to come, but there's still... even with how good this is, there's still... I just want to acknowledge that throughout these episodes, there's still some pretty awkward, pacing, blocking, some awkward line delivery and thing, but you could definitely tell, it definitely feels early on.
Yes. So, blah, blah, blah. Yep, they give up their weapons. So Odo goes to Cisco to update him about our new visitors. And that's where he gives us the information about who they are, and that they pretty much caused a civil war within the Klingons when they try to grab power. And I vaguely remember this in Next Gen.
Yeah, this was a big, obviously Worf storyline, and they were working with the Romulans and did a civil war and were eventually defeated. I remember
these ladies.
Yeah, they're pretty big in TNG, and they showed up in Generations, where they blew up.
Is that them?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Known.
The way you identify them is the boob cleavage right in the center.
Yeah. That's what,
they had their own tailor-made outfits. Odo's basically like, if they're enemies of the Klingon Empire, I could just lock them up and let the Klingons come get them.
Yeah, you just throw them in jail. And Cisco's like, no, you can't just throw him in jail. And Odo looks really sad that he can't just throw him in the brig. He's like, okay, I guess so.
I guess.
So the Klingons are hanging out at Quarks, and behind a pole, peeking at them, is Garak, watching them.
And as we've well established, it's not for the cleavage.
Not for the cleavage.
Oh, sir.
Though he does appreciate their clothing, as usual.
Honestly, they have great outfits. I love the long dress.
Yes.
It's like a battle dress. Like, their outfits are top tier for Klingons. They look way more balanced than the male ones, which are really top heavy.
Oh, yes, they're
right?
so...
They're also top, but like the dress on top of the warrior uniform, like it really brings it all together. So he has a good eye.
So Bashir comes over and she's like, "Hey, Garak, what you doing?"
And Garak tries his best to convey the situation.
There are so many scenes in this back half where Garak is like laying down the hints, and Bashir's like,
Huh?
Again, puppy energy.
Yep. He basically points out, see those Klingons right there?
Right there?
You might want to keep an eye on them. He's just like, yeah.
Sure.
Maybe I shouldn't have chosen quite so easy a mark.
Can
Garak, you
can
always
still
fall
do
for the
someone
pretty
else?
ones.
That was his flaw.
Yep.
So as they're watching them, and we see Odo is watching them,
Mm-hmm.
Talos comes in, and as soon as the Klingon lady see him, they beeline. And I'm
Not
like,
the
man,
most surreptitious.
which I do feel like tracks with Klingons.
Oh, yeah.
They're not
Very on brand.
subtle.
Which, again, is interesting. You see this, even the most aggressive and belligerent Cardassian, this Gull, still
like a
has
beeline,
10 times more tact and subtlety than the most devious Klingon, of which they are. They're probably the smartest and like most discreet Klingons I've ever seen, and yet they still can't help it. They're still Klingons.
So Odo, as a rat, overhears their meeting.
An actual rat, we should say. A literal rat.
Yes, he is an actual rat. And Tanalos is making a deal with them. They're going to get money and give him something. So at this point, we don't know what he's getting in return.
Yep.
Kira checks in with Cisco and, talking about how she's almost got this amnesty thing going on. And, I didn't think you would be on our side. I'm so glad you kept an open mind.
Yeah, she's very excited throughout this whole exchange, and he's very much like,
Yeah.
You could tell he's mad.
Oh, he's mad. mad.
And yeah, so she ends up with like, Commander, I just wanted to thank you. And he's just like...
And, okay, so he's like on a stair tube above her. He turns around, looks down at her. He's like, maybe you should tell the Admiral next time you talk to her. And Kira's like, He's like, next time you go over my head, I will have yours on a platter.
Some very intentional staging here with him being up on the stairs, looking down like...
Yeah. I think Kira, because of the Federation gloss, I guess she thought she could play with Cisco. And he's like, no, I am not to be played in this way. And I think from here on out, this definitely checked her. Yeah,
because it challenges her perception of the Federation as like dopes, right?
Yes.
And especially with Tanalos here, he has been like this image of like strength and national fervor, for all this time. So you just can't help, I have to, follow what they're doing because they project such strength. And you're right, getting checked by Cisco sort of shows that, okay, there's strength here too, which helps make her. It all contributes to the decision.
A dope, right? Yeah.
Because there'd be two things that she would need. She would need to. There's two things that the Bajorans need from the Federation to be true friends. One is to trust their intentions, and two is to trust their ability. Right? You have to believe that they are actually here to help and not just another oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to believe that they are competent enough to do something about it.
Yes. Because that might be her worry. Also,
right? Because
is some of the things he's telling her things she had concerns about in the pilot episode.
Yeah.
The Federation's just going to come on in and the same thing is going to happen. So she's also hearing her fears coming back to her.
Which makes it a great follow-up to the pilot.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think this is a good follow-up to the pilot, especially for Kira, because throughout this season, like, they're becoming a team. And this is when the steps in all of them on the ups becoming one. And Kira is a force to be reckoned with and is greatly needed.
Yep. She has to sort of pick her side because if she keeps distancing herself, from Cisco, and then this isn't going to work. So
exactly. Is there anything else before we go to Garak's shop? I had something written in the corner.
Just Cisco and Odo. Odo catches Cisco up on what Larsa and B'Etor are doing, and Cisco Odo brings up, he's going to give them gold, but I don't know where he's going to get it from. And Cisco puts it together, Kira just told me that these two members of the Khon-Mar are coming to the station to get amnesty.
So they must be bringing
So, so they're putting the piece together like, Tonalos has a plan here. He's not being genuine. Kira has not quite figured it out yet.
Yep.
Yeah, so the pieces are coming together. So, now we go to Garak's shop.
And he's visited by the Klingon ladies. And his sales pitch is great to them, showing him the finest silks and lingerie, and he holds up like just a piece of fabric,
nylon square. It's like
I'm like, oh boy,
the props department did you dirty, Garak. They couldn't find anything.
I know. Like, were they not allowed to show real lingerie? Oh, here's a piece of cloth. You make it into something.
How stupid do you think we are? This is a napkin.
They're like, okay, give it up. We know you have ties to your people. You're a spy. And he's like, oh, simple me. And then one of the ladies,
we have no time for games.
There's a shit fit at Garak. And Garak has this look on his face like, oh, okay. I can't do
Dealing
this.
with Klingons here.
Again, I thought this was another great moment of Klingon versus Cardassian, and how, because he knows they know, but he probably is like, oh, working the double speak, finagling and haggling. Klingons don't have time for the double speak.
Yeah, she says she does not have time for games.
Nope, not at all.
Games.
They're willing to give up Tonalos. And she's like, what? Money, please. Money, please. He gives them a number. They're like, they start to leave. And he's like, no, ladies.
Let us haggle. Because it's some jazz hands. All right, so Larsa and B'Etor obviously setting up. They're playing both sides. They're going to get paid both ways.
Because
they're the only ones who make it out of the situation with everything they wanted.
Yeah. Because of what happened with the Civil War, they need money to get back into the game. Yeah. So their purpose is literally just money, please.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to Tonalos' room. Kira enters and telling him, like, it's all set.
News. Yeah, we got the ministers.
They're on your side. It's all now just pretty much a show. You and the other members are going to get amnesty. And Tonalos like, ooh, didn't realize you were such a politician.
Talk about the way he puts her down here.
Belittles her.
After she's done so much for him.
Belittles her.
Yeah, it's really sad.
He's gross. Anyway. And then this is the moment where she realizes she got played, like during this conversation. I can't remember what he says, but
because he says very deliberately, he's like, and here we thought we would find that Kira had lost the fire in her heart, and he turns and looks at her like, oh, you knew it. Because when he first beams onto the station, he acts like he's surprised to see her, but he came here for her specifically.
And I just wrote lots of yelling.
It's interesting, this whole thing. So obviously he needs her help. He needs her to be a politician to get the amnesty, because that's how they get the come on here.
Yes.
But that's not enough for him. He also needs her to commit to his plan now, this more violent plan with the bomb.
And some of it is like this edgelord stuff where he almost can't help himself needling her. It's weird.
Well, I think this strikes me as a very textbook, like, manipulator abuser technique, where she has a good set of skills. She can accomplish things. The fact that she got all this done with the ministers, is great. That speaks to her character, her determination, and her ability to politic, to negotiate. But he can't have her having pride in those abilities. For her to go along with him, he has to break her down.
Yes.
Which means belittling her accomplishments, making her think like, these skills you have, they're worthless.
Exactly.
Bajor doesn't need them.
Because even she says, like, oh, they only agree with me because they're tired of hearing my voice. Like, she puts herself down.
Self-deprecation.
And I'm like, no, girl, you did this.
But for his purposes, he asked her to be like, no, it's your skills, all these things you've accomplished, they're cute. But what a real Bajoran needs is what I need you to do now. Which is just very, it's also scummy and...
Yeah. And he's like, I'm Konma. And so I said, lots of yelling. And she's like, I'm tired of the violence. And he goes, my plan is nonviolent. I promise you that. I just need you to give me one of the runabouts. And she's like, she leaves, not knowing what to do, because the question is, where does her loyalty lie? Because she has a big decision here.
And to be clear, at this point, she does not know that he has a bomb. She just knows that all she knows at this point is he was lying to her about his real plan. He's still assuring her it's not violent, but obviously, like, what can you trust?
Exactly. You don't know.
Yeah, so now she's in a pickle.
I just wrote Garak dropping hints and knowledge that Bashir's not picking up.
Yeah, so Bashir goes to Garak again, and Garak has now dropped all of his pretense, and he's just like, which is great. Because you feel like Bashir is finally caught on, and he goes and is like, oh, observing the comings and goings already. He's just like, shut up. And it's serious now.
Listen here, little boy.
And so, yeah, he points out the two Konma terrorists. And, what are the...
Stuff is going down.
What's happening here, Bashir?
Down.
So, I need you to buy a suit. I need you to come to my store at this specific time, this exact time, Bashir, and buy a suit.
Oh, Bashir.
He was just like, okay.
You want me to buy a suit? Care, you could just see and feel the deep sigh in Garak.
That's all I have to work with.
So he goes over, Bashir goes over to Cisco, kind of like, I need help. He goes, Garak wants me to buy a suit. And this is where Cisco's like, sometimes contacts and information can't be made in the official channels. This might be one of those unofficial ways, wink wink. He's like, and I think you could use a new suit. Go on.
And throughout this whole scene where he's talking to Bashir, he's looking at Kira, because he can tell something's different with Kira. He's asking her about the two Konmas, like, do you feel as secure about them as Talos? And she gives sort of an unconvincing, yes, absolutely, and sort of leaves. And they sort of look at each other as she's going down the lift. So she has a lot on her mind right now. I know, and Cisco's picking up on that.
And so she goes to visit Odo in his office, and she's like, everything ready? Everything, like, you could tell she wants to tell him what's going on, but she doesn't know how to say it. And thankfully, Odo helps her break the ice, in a sense.
Yep. Yeah, you get a really great scene here between Odo and Kira, where you get to see a little bit of their relationship and the rapport they have with each other, because they've known each other since before the show started.
Yep. And
why she respects his opinion, because he'll tell her straight, tell like it is.
I like what he said. One of the things I can't replicate, like it, and when you're humanoids, I can't shift into his pretense. I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is something a humanoid thing, like, that's learned the way, like, that's what Kira's doing. Thought that was great. Yeah, she says she respects his opinion. She asks, like, what do you know about me? And he's like, probably more than you would like. She admits she's done terrible things, but she knew the purpose of it and had that clarity of purpose. And like I said before in the pilot, when You have a people who had that clarity of purpose for decades of trying to get out of the occupation. And now things are different and not there anymore, that clarity. So she doesn't know what to do. She's like, am I just trying to talk myself out of being in the fight? Or am I a fool? She's like, because I get that's like, oh, am I just trying to talk myself out of doing the right thing by, in essence, showing Tanalos? Like, keep up the fight, in essence. And so I wrote down pretty much like line after this because it's so good. Odo says, sounds like you're trying to talk yourself into or out of something. And Kara goes, either way, I'm betraying someone close to me. I was like, the only important thing is to not betray yourself. And Kara says, how can I turn against my people? I was like, are they your people? And Kara's like, I used to be just like them. And Odo said, you used to be.
Yeah, Odo does a great job here. He doesn't like talk at her. He basically just asks questions and repeats things back to her.
Yes, he's like, oh, I'm starting to get also why he's part of security, not just because of like his shape-shifting abilities. He can really get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the heart of the matter, probably really good at like questioning people and interrogating them. he's being direct but also kind.
Yeah.
Like it's not especially after seeing the way Tanalos talks to Kira. Yeah. This is so different.
This is someone who actually listens to what she's saying.
And respects Kira.
Yes.
Respects her, and that is such a huge thing, especially for women. And so to have Odo, I don't know, it's just, I really like Odo in this moment. This is a really great moment for him too, to show the depth of like his understanding.
Yep.
So after he says, he used to be, here's like, well, I could just not do anything. Like, I don't have to tell Cisco. I could just stand aside, just not give them the runabout either. And they'll just, they won't have the runabout. And he talks about
the Joranian ostrich.
Which buries his head in the sand. But
the twist here is it buries his head in the water.
Oh,
so it's like
right,
sometimes even until it drowns, being like,
yes.
It's like it's the point home of like, oh yeah,
because even
they'll do whatever they want anyway, and
exactly.
I'll still be responsible.
Exactly. Yes, they might be delayed, but they're still gonna get this bomb. Well, she doesn't know about, but we know they'll still get it, and they'll just find another ship somewhere, which I think really drove home to Kira where her loyalty is.
Yep. And she ends it with just saying, it was so much easier when I knew who the enemy was. And that's basically enough for Odo to figure out that, okay, she's on the right track now. She knows what she has to do. It's just hard. Yes. And so he calls Cisco for her.
Yeah. Again, I'm like, oh, that's
great moment.
Heart.
Yeah. Really gives Odo some humanity and some development, which we haven't seen a ton of yet.
Yes.
And builds this relationship. Overall, just fantastic scene. All right, so then we go to Garak's shop. Bashir arrives 2 minutes late.
If I was Bashir, I would be early. Then I'd be like, oh crap, I'm early. And then I'm like, try to like circle around but not be like obvious about, like, I would have the opposite problem.
Bashir definitely strikes me as someone who would get so distracted he would end up being late to everything.
Yeah. Garak pretty much throws him in a dressing room. He's like, try this suit.
He sort of looks at the suit in the mirror. It's like, Bashir, stop it. It's not about the suit. But he can't help it.
While I'm here. And our two Klingon ladies come in, and he overhears the plan of them wanting to sell out Tanalos. And Garak at this point is like, okay, what's going on? What does he have? Because if he has something that might
be dangerous, then I gotta tell my superiors.
Yes, which understandable. So they explain that the pretty much the half of the bomb that they're giving him, and they know that he has the other half that's needed to like put these pieces together. In essence, I don't know.
Yeah, he has bomb.
Details. Bomb.
Bomb goes boom if he gets thing.
With Kira on board, Cisco makes his plan. Because it sounds like they probably could get him, but
Yeah, they don't have anything to charge him on right now.
it'd be loosey-goosey, yeah.
Others will try, so they need to catch him with all the materials in hand, make a stronger case, and also then they secure the bomb and know where it is.
Yes.
And also know what their plan is, so in case someone else does try, they are ready for it. So they have to give them the runabout.
Yeah, what they do, which is Kira is going to give Tana the runabout and go with him, while Cisco and Miles are in another runabout hiding. Waiting for pretty much Kira's cue, in essence, of like, okay, come get him, we got it. And they know the Cardassians are pretty much around the corner, so we're also waiting for Tana. So just a lot of pieces being set up.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on the runabout, Kira and Tana, and this is where Kira's just pretty much like, hey, what's going on?
Right, she's still trying to get the actual plan of him, but he's being pretty cagey about it.
Klingon ship pops up.
Yep.
It's quick. They beam aboard. They do their
business,
and then they leave. I'm like, oh, bye, ladies. He puts the bomb together, and pretty much everything is revealed that he has created a bomb. And now he's like, and now head towards Deep Space Nine.
Yep. And so at this point, obviously she doesn't believe him that the plan is nonviolent. So she thinks he's going to destroy the station. She makes a move for the phasers and the runabout, but
face punch.
Yeah, knocks her out pretty quickly.
And he threatens the 6 colonies.
Yeah, because they're by a moon, nearby one of Bajor's moons, which has colonies on it.
He's like,
or another planet, actually. I guess that's
all I only remember is that there were 6 colonies, and that he's like, if you do not follow my directions, I'll just blow this up now and kill those colonies. And she's like, the horror on her face, like, you would kill your own people?
And he's like, no, you would kill them by not saying the correct. So classic redirection.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, she's going to have to follow him for now.
Abuse her tactics.
Yes. So, yeah, they warp towards the station. O'Brien and Cisco are in pursuit in the other runabout. They call the Cardassians to see if they can intercept them sooner. But he's like, no, we're going to be a minute late. And the Gull starts saying, if I could take this opportunity to say that, we warned you. And he just cuts them.
And the look on his face. Like, I don't have time for this.
Not helpful.
Yeah. Cut off that told you so. So they're heading towards Deep Space Nine, and then right before they get to it, they do a quick cut turn, and they're heading to the wormhole. His plan is to blow up the entrance of the wormhole, because he can't destroy it altogether, but he can at least collapse it.
No wormhole. The Federation will lose interest. The Cardassians will lose interest. No one will care about Bajor anymore, so they'll be left alone in his mind.
In his mind. Now, I get that the wormhole made them more of a power, but these 2 entities were here before the wormhole.
They were, but the Cardassians left, right? So they clearly aren't interested anymore. The Federation was going to be here very temporarily. But now that the wormhole's here, now they are much more interested in like a bigger presence.
I just felt like the Cardassians were more interested because they're like, we're on your back door, blah, blah. I don't know.
I think the Cardassians were interested because the Federation was there. Because again, they didn't think much of the Bajorans. They were the dog on the lawn. So from his perspective, like, okay, yeah, with the wormhole gone, we can actually oust everyone. Like, the Federation will leave eventually.
All outsiders.
And with them, the Cardassians leave. Those big powers can go duke it off over there, and we won't be part of their proxy war, And yeah, everything's going to go back to where it was. And this, he has a point, but it's obviously a very selfish outcome because it's not like Bajor is in a good position. We've already established that the Federation's here because, there's famine, there's hardships, but he doesn't care about those things. I mean, think about it from his perspective, being this Conmat terrorist. He's probably used to like roughing it, starving, sleeping outside, like all this stuff, like being on the move. It's worth it
as long as we are Bajor,
And
who cares if people
he's
are starving?
probably thinking, well, I'll make it.
Yeah.
But not all the Bajorans will. Well, then they don't deserve to.
sucks to suck, I guess.
Yeah. So you can definitely tell. I mean, he was already willing to kill thousands to get his plan through. To him, sacrificing individual Bajorans is not as important as saving the whole in his view, like what his view of them will be.
And because you have such a black and white perspective, it's naive. Like, yeah, they might leave. I don't know. Just like, that doesn't mean all your problems go away.
Which is interesting because he accuses her of being naive, but it's like, well, you're just as naive, thinking that this is all going to make things sunshine and roses. But ultimately, he doesn't care. He wants what he wants and will cut off his nose to spite his face.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
When they go into the wormhole before he can press the bomb button, as we thought it was.
That was the funniest thing. He has the bomb set up, and then he flips the panel, and there's like a big red button. And before I knew exactly what he's doing, I'm like, they have a built-in button in this runabout to blow up bombs? Just blow up any bomb that's plugged into the ship? Like, it was just so comically red and large.
Button, yeah. So he's going towards the button. They have a fight.
An awkward little fight in the runabout.
They are on the other side.
Yeah, basically she grabs onto his leg and holds him back long enough that by the time he gets to the big red button and hits it, they're already clear of the wormhole. Because also the other thing is when she like gets the jump on him because she slams on the controls and veers them into the wormhole at like full impulse. Because Miles comments on that. So they're going really fast, and so it knocks him off his feet, and they're able to struggle him, yada yada. They get clear of the wormhole completely, and only then is he able to hit the bomb, so it's too late. And it turns out the red button was like some sort of launch mechanism. So, okay, it launched something. Like, okay, no, it's not a big blow up the bomb button. But, goes off into space, blows up. He's like, damn you. You foiled my plan.
Yep. Yeah, I just wrote, Tana Pierce. And whoopsie doopsie, bomb went off in the quadrant comment. And then Cisco comes up and pretty much, because, Tana's like, I'll never surrender. And Cisco's like, cool, you can either surrender to me or to that Cardassian ship.
Yep.
It's coming.
So it all comes full circle here. He knows this is a big deal, uses it to his advantage, and Tanalos surrenders.
And the actor does do a good job here. Like, you could see the conflict on his face. Like, he does not want to surrender to the Federation, but he knows what he'll go through if he doesn't. They bring him back to Deep Space Nine. It's just like a little conversation between Tana and Kira. Well, I guess Kira mainly conversation where she's just trying to explain, like, this is the future of Bajor, the wormhole. You'll understand later what I'm doing. And I just wrote, Tana's a little bitch and just says traitor.
Yeah.
And, she's like, the old weights don't work anymore. Because that's the thing. He's still trying to fight.
Like he's in the resistance. Yeah.
In the same way. And I'm not saying that there's still not battles, but it's not the same. He is not evolving to what his people need him. He's incredibly selfish.
Yep.
He talks all this time about Bajor, Bajor, Bajor. It's about him and what he ultimately wants, which is everyone to leave, even if it hurts his people.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell the him calling her a traitor hits her pretty hard.
Yes.
This is a hard moment for her, because this was someone she idolized just, a few minutes ago.
It's a hard episode for Kira. She learned some lessons.
But they end the episode with her and Cisco. They don't say anything, they just walk out together. Mm. So it's, they've come to some sort of understanding here. She realizes the purpose she's serving here and that what she's doing. And she has some more conviction now that the way she's doing it is the right way.
Because Odo's right. Like, sometimes you really don't know if what you're doing is right. All you can go by is the path that I'm taking. Do I believe this is the right path to take? Is this betraying my morals, my values as a person? It's all you have. And I think that's a good point. Like, yeah, she could have helped Tanalos, but there would have been a part of her that died. She helped him out and ended up blowing up this wormhole.
Yep. Also, didn't we just establish that this was the Celestial Temple? Like, I feel like a lot of Bajorans would have been really pissed.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
They don't really touch on that at all. Probably because it just would have muddled the message.
True.
And it's still probably early enough that maybe not everyone buys it, and he clearly doesn't, wormhole, schwormhole, temple, schmemple.
Which is probably why it's done now. Because, I think later in the season...
Later they make too much of a big deal of it that it would have been like...
There's no way that he would have gotten away with that.
But you got to imagine this probably ruined the reputation of the Konmai after this, because they've been captured, actively attempting to, like, blow this thing up for, selfish reasons. Like, their rep probably took a big hit in there.
Because I'm guessing there's probably some people that believe like him, but I'm guessing overall, the wormhole is probably a plus positive in the book of the Bashir people.
Yep.
So,
all right.
I think this episode just suffered a little bit from still doing, like, having the monster of the week. And I think a lot of these early episodes have that issue.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's how Tana felt. More like, just the bad guy of the week. It's not like I would want, like, an extended arc with him, but maybe, like, one more episode. Like, maybe built him out a little bit more. Because he really did come off as one note. And
they definitely do that more later.
Yes.
But yeah, you can tell they're still, throughout the show, but especially throughout the first few seasons, they definitely are still struggling with, like, the expectation of them as a Star Trek show and just TV at the time being episodic, and also trying to pull off some kind of serial narrative.
I think what saved it is, even though he is very one note, his black and white perspective elevates Kira arc in the episode and her development. So even though the villain is a little like, she is the anchor of this episode. And all of her stuff is great. It is great. And I think it's a pivotal moment for her character and her journey throughout DS9. So yeah, like, I can, again, season 1, so I get the flaws, I see the flaws, but despite that, because Kira's storyline is so strong in this, and really working in the gray, because you have someone who's so black and white, and someone who understands that it's not like that anymore. I think it's a really good episode.
Yeah.
I think it's a really solid episode.
Yeah, it definitely deserves more than a 4. But again, we're not rating. But definitely higher than a 4. What's interesting, when you look at some of the behind the scenes on this, some of the trivia, it's DS9 has this reputation as this show that's very, serial, and all these character relations built out over a long period of time, and a lot of things were planned out. But it's also interesting seeing what things weren't planned out and that they just sort of ran with, which I think also speaks to their strength that they could create these stories without having planned them out and still have them feel pretty continuous. So, like, Garak's character was created not with any sort of plan in mind for it. They just needed someone for Lursan B'Etor to, like, negotiate with, who was a gray middle area. So that's how they came up with Garak, and threw him, in the tailor shop and called it a day. And because they didn't want someone so obviously a spy and so obviously, like the other Cardassians we've seen. And that's how he came to be. Crazy. And they just ran with him after that. Now that the expectation is to do serial and have all these mystery plots and big overarching themes, that everything must be planned out completely, which leads to a lot of setup. Whereas sometimes you just have to live in the moment. What would people do then? And then have the skill to, after that, figure out, okay, well, what would they do after this point? Which is just something interesting. All right. So that's past Prologue. Stay tuned next week for A Man Alone.
Okay, I'm glad you remembered the name of the episode. All right, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.